scream. Put your hand up. You will help. Okay, so let's have a look at question 1. So quite a few of you got question 1 right. And Piwe got it right. Roma got it right. I think Landlaw was the first one to get it right, which was great. So let's go through this answer. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find our like terms. And remember, for our like terms, our variables have to be the same and the exponents of all of our variables have to be the same. So in this situation, I've got negative 8xy minus 2xy. And my other like terms that I've got are my 2y minus my 2y. Okay, so let's jump into this. Negative 8 minus another 2 is going to give me negative 10 xy. And when I have 2y minus 2y, that's the same as saying like 10 minus 10 or 5 minus 5 or 2 minus 2. They just cancel each other out. So there's nothing else for me to write. If you wanted to, you could say plus 0, but we don't need to because 0 just is something that's there. So our answer is just negative 10y. So a big well done to everyone who got that correct, the negative 10xy. That is excellent. Okay, let's have a look at number 2. I see lots of people got number 2 right, which is awesome. Okay, so let's jump through. First thing we want to do is link our like terms. We've got 2y minus 6y plus 7y. And let's go through those first. So 2y minus 6y is going to give us negative 4y. And negative 4y plus 7y is going to give us 3y. So we're going to get 3y. And then we have negative 5. Let me get these colors out again. Negative 5 minus 3, which is going to give us negative 8. Okay, let me know in the chat who got 2 out of 2, who got 1 out of 2, who got 0 out of 2. Let me know how this question went, how they both went. It was super easy. Anything you want to say. 2 out of 2, 1 out of 2, 0 out of 2. Let me know in the chat. Great. That's awesome, guys. But remember, if you didn't get 2 out of 2, that's also fine. Yolanda, great. That's great. Do you see where you went wrong? The 1s out of 2s, was it something silly? Is it something you know what you did? Okay, so Asaza, you were one of my first ones to give an answer. Do you see where you went wrong in question 1? What happened with your question? You can either unmute yourself and chat to me, or you can let me know in the chat. I don't mind. Was it an adding error? Okay, as long as you know where you're going wrong, that's all that matters. Okay, cool. Let's jump on. So we're going to be looking at multiplication today. So before we jump into multiplication with algebra, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page when we have negatives and positives that are getting involved with multiplication. So let's have a look here. Multiplication with integers. Integers, just in case anyone doesn't remember, are all of our negative numbers. So that's actually a sign for negative infinity because it goes all the way to negative infinity. All of our negative numbers, 0, and all of our positive numbers. And so that's actually going to go all the way up to positive infinity. So you've got 2 different kinds. Well, actually got lots of different infinities, but for the moment, let's just say negative and positive. Okay, so the first question here, we have got a positive number and we are multiplying it by another positive number. So is my answer going to be positive or is my answer going to be negative if we are multiplying a positive with a positive? Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Cool. Okay. If I have 2 numbers that are positive, when I multiply them together, my answer is definitely going to be a positive. And in this situation, I'm saying what is 3 times 2? Because remember brackets. Sorry, this pen has had a little bit too much lunch, I think. When we've got brackets, that also means multiplication. Okay. So what I've got is a +3 times +2, which is going to give me a positive answer, and my answer is going to be 6. Now, when we have a positive answer, we don't have to write that plus sign because numbers are assumed to be positive. That's why we can write numbers like 5, 6, 8, 10. We know that all of those are positive numbers. Okay, so our answer here we can just write as 6. Okay, so we know that when we multiply a positive and a positive, we get a positive answer. What happens when we multiply a negative and a negative? What type of answer am I going to get there? Am I going to get a negative answer or am I going to get a positive answer?
Two.
Okay. Cool. Cool answers coming in, guys. It's definitely going to, yes, hi.
Sorry to jump in. Like, I see the kids on the same pace. May I use another analogy that might help the kids to remember this?
Absolutely.
So when you've got 2 buckets of red paints, even if they are different brands, if they're the same paint color and you mix them, you'll still get a red color, which is good. The moment when you mix a yellow and a red, you'll get a different color, and that's not what you want. So basically what I'm trying to say is, if your symbols are the same, it's all good in the hood. It'll be positive. The moment when your colors differ, so it's negative and positive, not cool, man. You're gonna have a new color. Right, back to you, ma'am.
Awesome, guys. Let's try and bring this paint analogy in here. Okay, so I mean, you're gonna have to use some imagination, guys, with my little drawings, because I'm not an artist by any means. But what we've got here is, if ours are the same as each other, we definitely are going to have the same color. So in this example, a red and a red is a red. And if we have one that's different, it's always going to be a different answer. So if we have a positive and a negative, we're always going to have a negative. Okay, so the answers that are coming in, that's great. We definitely are going to have a positive answer, and we're multiplying these together. So we're going to say 3 times 2, which gives us our positive 6. Okay, so we know if we have a positive and a positive, we get a positive. If we have a negative times a negative, we get a positive. Cool, 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 cool. Now we're going to throw all of that, and we're going to say, well, what happens when we have a positive times a negative? So think about your paint analogy here. What is my answer going to be over here if I have +3 times -2? Okay, good. It's definitely going to be a negative. And what will my full answer be?
-6.
Yes, absolutely. Well done. Good. My answer is going to be -6. Cool. Okay. Let's try bring in some others. Now we've got 3 numbers chilling. So this is saying 4 times 2 times -3. Now I'm going to start working with these 3 different letters as we move on through this lesson. And you may have seen them in movies and TV shows. Hopefully you haven't, because we shouldn't be watching shows like this. But when you see this in a movie, they're like our age restrictions. So S stands for sex, and N stands for nudity, and V stands for violence. So in maths, we're now going to be talking about sex, nudity, and violence. But in our version of our SNV, we're going to say that this is signs, this is numbers, and then our V is going to be variables. So I'm going to be saying these 3 letters a lot over the next little time in our when we're working through algebra. Now we don't have any variables here yet. We only are dealing with these 2 for the moment. So we're dealing with our S and our N. And all that that's meaning is that the first thing we need to look at is our signs. And then the second thing we need to look at is our numbers. So we've got a positive times a positive. What would that give me if I have a positive times a positive? Is that going to give me a positive or a negative? Good. So we're just looking at that 4 and the 2 at the moment. So positive times a positive is definitely a positive. Great. Okay, now we have a positive and we're multiplying it by a negative. So what do we get now? What does a positive and a negative give us?
-2.
Good. Okay, so that's our S. That's our sign. Cool. We've got our signs done. Now we do our numbers. 4 times 2 is what? Yes, Roma, 8. And then 8 times 3?
-24.
Beautiful. Okay. So for some of you, like, geez, this is so easy, but don't worry, we're going to get harder. We just need to make sure that our basics are in place before we start building. So the first thing we did was we looked at our signs and then we looked at our numbers. Now let's have a look at number 5. Now we've got 3 negatives in a row. So here, this negative and that negative is going to give us a positive, and this positive and that negative is going to give us a negative. So we know signs, numbers, variables. We've done our signs. Our answer is going to be negative. Now we look at our numbers. 3 times 2 is what? There we go. I got a bit worried there for a second. Good. It's definitely 6. 3 times 2 is 6. And 6 times 1 is 6, which means our final answer here is going to be negative 6. And that was dealing with our numbers. Good. Okay. And remember, we've got our calculators, but the problem is that when we have algebra involved, we have to use our brains a bit more. Okay. Give this one a try. Remember your signs and then numbers. Variables, we're not at variables just yet. Give this one a try and give me your answer in the chat.
I think these grade 9s can give the grade 10s a run for their money. They take, like, I love the participation in the chats. It's really cool. Awesome, guys. Well done.
It's so good, guys. You really are giving the grade 10s a run for their money. Beautiful, guys. 24 is absolutely right. Good. Okay, so the first thing we looked at is our signs. A positive and a negative is a negative, and then a negative and a negative is a positive. So our answer is going to be positive. Then we say 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. So we get positive 24. Beautiful. Now let's start bringing in some variables. Oh, hello. Oh, not variables just yet. Quick question. Here we go. Lily wanted to help your brain. Oh, you know what? I had a question for you from our last lesson that we didn't end up getting to because we ran out of time, but it's such a cool question. So let's rather do this one. Okay. I want to know what the number of the parking bay is that the car is sitting in. Let's see if we have a genius in our midst, Anya.
It's actually such a nice puzzle.
I must tell you guys, I was stumped for quite a while.
Well, at least they can park. I've seen worse parking at Pick and Pay.
Oh my goodness, Roma. Yes. Oh my gosh, you did it so quickly. That was amazing. Oh, Joanne, you also got in there, but you got in there just after Roma. Roma stole your thunder. 87 is exactly right. Can you guys see why it's 87? Can anyone not? Can anyone not see why it's 87? Let me know. Let me know if you still have no idea how we got to 87. Okay. So if you turn, yeah, exactly. It's upside down. If you turn it around, you'll see that that's 86, that's 88, that's 89, that's 90, and that's 91, which means that this is 87. Woo, I clearly can't write upside down, guys. 87. How nice was that? Geez, Roma, you got it so quickly. That's crazy. I sat here sitting for ages. I was like 16, 6, 68. What is the pattern? How are they going from these numbers? It took me a long time. Okay. We can come back to the fish if we've got time later in the lesson. Okay. So let's bring in some variables now. So we're going to keep our situation of signs, numbers, variables, and now we've also got the V that's going to come into play. Okay, so we've got a negative times a positive times a negative. So is my answer going to be positive or negative? So at the moment we're doing our S, we're doing our signs. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Good and Blandlo. Well, just be careful here. A negative and a positive is going to give me a negative, and a negative and a negative is going to give me a positive. Yes? No? I feel like everyone got really quiet for a second. Okay, so signs, we know we're dealing with something positive. Then we look at our numbers. We've got 3 times 2, which is 6. 6 times 2, which is 12. So we're going to have 12. And then we've got our variables, which is just going to be x, y. Okay, so we literally do it in this order. Signs, numbers, variables. First your signs, then your numbers, then your variables. And then you can't go wrong with multiplication. Is there anyone who's feeling unhappy about this so far? Let me know. Lunico, how can I help? No? Okay. Okay, I think you may have just unmuted, but I'm just going to move on to our next one. Okay, so let's have a look at number 2. I'm going to keep this here so you can see it as an idea of what to do. Remember again, we're going to start with signs. We're going to move on to numbers, and then we're going to move on to variables. So first look at all of your signs of your different numbers that you've got chilling over there, your terms. Then you're going to look at the numbers of each one in the brackets, because remember brackets means times, which is our multiplication, and then look at your variables and see if you can come up with an answer for this one. Signs, numbers, variables. Let's see if we have a brave soul who can give us our answer. As soon as you have an answer that you think you're happy with, chuck it in the chat for us, and we can see what we're looking at. And make sure to be careful with what sign you're giving it, if it's a positive or a negative. Okay, we've got our first answer coming in at 60. So just be careful there where your variables are. Okay, then we've got a 60xy, we've got a negative 60yx, negative 60yx. What else have we got coming in? Okay. So let's do this step by step. Let's look at our signs first. We've got a positive times a negative, which is a negative. We've got a negative times a negative, which is a positive. And we've got a positive times a negative, which is a negative. So we know our answer is a negative. Okay, that's our signs. Then let's look at our numbers. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 times 3 is 30. 30 times 2 is 60. That's our numbers. And then our variables, we've got x, y. Does anyone have like a fun way that they learned about positive and negative numbers being multiplied together and how they change? I know some schools like teach different rhymes, some teachers teach it in different ways. Who was taught a fun or different way, or how do you remember about your different signs? Let us know. Tabetswe?
I don't remember it much, but my teacher would say lovers plus lovers love each other, and then if a lover, if a lover,
It says a lover and a hater.
Yeah, something like that. I forgot.
Okay.
I also used to teach something like that, to be quite honest.
You remember what it was?
I used to say, when I used to teach maths, I used to say, well, if you got something in common, all is good. If you both don't like something, got something in common, so that's good. The moment when you guys differ, you're going to have an argument, and that's not good. That's how I used to teach it.
Okay, so if we have two things that are different, then we have something bad. I remember some of my kids saying if we have love and hate, then it's hate, and if we have love and love, it's love. But it was something they learned in junior school, and I don't remember the full thing. Did anyone else learn it in any different way that they want to share? None at the moment. Okay. If you feel brave and you want to share, you also can share in the chat. You don't need to feel stressed to unmute yourself. Okay. Okay, so now we've looked at if we are multiplying and we've got signs involved and we've got variables involved, but what happens when we have more of the same variable? So here I've got x times x. What is going to happen when I'm trying to multiply two x's together? What's going to happen? If you feel like you know the answer, just let me know. Just unmute that self and let me know. Tany's saying x squared. I like it. It's good. Okay, so this is the same situation. I'm just going to show you with numbers for a second. Yeah, good. X to the power of 2. So if I was to write anything that's being multiplied by itself, like if I had the number 2 times 2, I can write that as 2 to the power of 2. It's 2 squared. Okay, so when I've got two variables that are the same as each other and I'm multiplying them together, they are going to be squared. So that would be x squared. Okay, cool. So far we're all on the same page. What happens if I am adding those two together? So what happens if I've got x plus x? So in the first one I had x times x and I get x squared. What happens if I have x plus x? What answer am I going to get then? Good. Okay, if you can remember these two rules, you can essentially remember the whole of algebra. And I know that that sounds a bit crazy, but it's true. They sort of simplify everything down for you. If we can remember that x times x is x squared and x plus x is 2x, we're solid. Okay. So now we're going to bring in two different ones. So I've got x times y times y. Suggestions for my answer here. These ones might be easier to unmute and just tell me because there's powers involved. But if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to. Let's see. Okay, so one of our answers we've got is x squared plus y squared. Then we've got x squared times y squared. Cool. Let's see. Does anyone else have anything else that they think? Okay, so let's look at these together. So we know that x times x gave us x squared. We knew that from our last question. And we know that y times y is going to give us y squared. And we know that everything is being multiplied by each other. So we could say x squared times y squared, but that's exactly the same as saying x squared, y squared, because when they're right next to each other, it means that they're being multiplied. So we can write them right next to each other like that. I can write x squared, y squared quite easily without getting into any kind of trouble.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
what if a learner wrote xy squared? Is that the same or not?
Like this?
Correct. So why would that answer be incorrect?
Well, can anyone give us an answer? Can anyone tell us why this answer wouldn't be right? Why would that answer not be correct? Who thinks that they can sort of be a teacher for a moment? Nokabonga, can you explain to us why?
It's because if it's yx to the power of 2, it only is the power doesn't apply to the x, it only applies to the y only.
Good.
Well done, excellent. So that's the same as
Love
saying
that.
x times y times y. Remember, dots also means multiply, guys. So dots and brackets, they all mean multiply. That was such a
Well
beautiful
done.
answer. So that's
Thank
exactly,
you.
that square is only chilling on our y. It's not chilling on our x at all. So only our y is going to have two of them. Cool, Simpewe, absolutely. The variables have their own exponents. Also a lovely answer. Roma, also x's are not squared. Perfect. Great answers, guys. Okay. This one should feel nice and easy after the one we've just done. What is my answer to 3? Nice. Great. Good. X times y squared, we can just write that as xy squared. So I've got 2 y's, that's my y squared, and my x was just x. So we can just write our x. Great. Good job, guys. Okay. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like we can do some harder questions today. So now we're going to start mushing those things together. So now we've got signs again, we've got numbers, and we've got variables. So I'm just going to talk you through this one, and then I'm going to let you try the next one all by yourself. Signs, a negative times a negative is a positive. A positive times a positive is a positive. So I know my answer is positive. Numbers, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Numbers. Now we look at our variables. I've got 1x, I've got 2 x's, I've got 3 x's. So I've got x cubed. And then I look at my y's, and I've only got 1 y. So I'm going to have 12 x cubed y. Okay. Cool. Does anyone need to sit on this question? Let me know. Put a little hand up if you feel like you need to look at it a little bit longer. Otherwise, I'm going to give you one to try by yourself now. Do you have anyone who's struggling with this type of question? Okay. There we go. All for you. Remember your 3 letters, signs, numbers, variables, and try and do this one for me. So distributive law only comes into play when we are looking at multiple terms inside a bracket. So if I had like 4x minus 2, so I've got 2 different terms, and then I need to multiply that 4 into both. All of these, I'm just multiplying all together. So I'm just saying negative 3x squared times 2x times negative 8x squared. We will jump into distributive law, I think, in our lesson on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. We need to spend time on algebra, because algebra is one of the most important sections in maths, because it feeds onto everything you do in maths. Okay, so just remember signs, numbers, variables. Look at your signs, look at your numbers, look at your variables, try and give me an answer. Okay, Nokubonga's coming with an answer. Let's see if you agree with her or disagree with her. Okay, we got a second answer coming in. Okay, keep your answers coming, guys. As soon as you figured it out, put it in the chat for us so we know that you're working along and you're on the same page. And if you're struggling, if you're not understanding how people are getting to the answers, you just need to let us know. You can just send Anya a direct message if you feel embarrassed to message everyone. Cool. Okay, so let's look. S, that's our signs. We've got a negative times a positive, which is a negative. Then we've got a negative times a negative, which is a positive. So we know our answer is positive. Then we're going to say, so that's our signs. Now we look at numbers. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. That's our numbers. Then we look at our variables. We've got 2 x's over here. And we've got another x. So now we're on x cubed. And then we've got another 2 x's over there. So now I am on x to the power of 5. So if you got that, well done. Esther, how can I help you? Esther, hello? I see a little hand. Are you just needing more time on this question?
Okay, I'm saying.
Yeah?
How did you get x to the power of 5?
Okay, great question. Let's try and write it out a slightly different way. So I could write this as 3. If I wrote x squared in a different way, I could write that as x times x, right? Because x times x gives me x squared. And then I'm multiplying that by 2x. And then I'm multiplying that by negative 8. And again, it's 2 of them, x times x, because x times x gives me x squared. Okay, so then when I start linking them together, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 x's, x to the power of 5. But when we, yeah.
Shona, first continue with your explanation and then I'll add on.
Okay, so when we're working with powers and we're working with multiplication, our other thing that we're allowed to do is we're allowed to just add of all of our exponents. So we have a 2 over here and we can add those 2 over there, which gives us the 4. And when there isn't a number above it, then it's the same as having a 1. So that's saying 2 plus 2 plus 1, which gives me to the power of 5. So when we're doing multiplication, we can add them. But otherwise, you can always write it out the longer way. When in doubt, write it out, and then it sort of helps you get to where you want him to go. And yeah,
basically, Shame, you just mentioned it now, but also like a pro tip for you guys, if you have like a variable, so like that one bracket of the 2x there, make it a rule for yourself. If you ever see a variable and there's no exponent above it, give it an exponent of 1. Like it's going to help you when you add your exponents. But I see Mam has explained it very well as well. That's all I wanted to add. All right,
that's great. That's a great suggestion though. Like right in the beginning, if you just put the 1 there, then you know that it's there, and so it can sort of help you as you move forward. Does that help though, Esther?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks for asking. Okay, let's move on down. Let's see how these go. Okay, give it your best go. And if anyone's feeling like talking to us, we'd love it if you unmuted and you spoke us through this answer once you get one, because we like hearing from you. But no pressure. But if you'd like to, we would like it. And if you're really struggling, let us know as well, okay?
What would the first step be, guys? Anyone want to share just the first step?
What are the three things we're going to write down? The 3 letters.
S and V.
Yes, yes. We're going to write our S and V down. That's always going to be our guiding principle. Do we have anyone who feels like talking us through this one? This feels like taking a shot in the dark here. Oh, we're all still too nervous. I don't know why everyone's feeling so nervous though, Anya, because they're all getting the right answers. Okay. All right, let's have a look at some of the answers that have come into the chat. I'm seeing some good things that are coming in. Okay, signs. We've got a positive times a positive, which is a positive. Then we have a positive times a negative, which is a negative. And then we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. So we know our answer is a positive. Signs. Done. Numbers. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 1. If there's no number, there would be a 1. It's going to be 18. So we get positive 18. Then we look at our variables. So that was our numbers. Check. Variables, 1x, 2x's, 3x's, 4x's, x to the power of 4. Then we look at our y's. 1y, 2y's, y to the power of 2. Okay. So I see some people got to the 18. Some people got to the x to the power of 4. Some people got to the y squared. But I don't know if we landed up, did anyone land up getting this fully correct? Did I miss anyone in the chat? Ah, so Bets, we got it fully correct. Nice. Nice job, guys. Okay, so we just do it step by step. So the problem with these ones is that we see them and we're like, oh, they're quite easy. We'll be fine. And so we rush. But I cannot stress you enough to just do it step by step. First, look at your signs, then look at your numbers, and then look at your variables. And remember that when there isn't a number in front of a variable, like over here, it would just be a 1. Okay, and we're multiplying everything together. So we're saying 3 times 2 times 3 times 1. So just keep that in mind. Okay. All right, now if you didn't get that one 100% right, remember, it's not a problem. That's why we do lots of questions together. So we try another one. I want you to try and put into practice what we did here in the next question. Try not to rush it. Do it step by step. Look at your signs, then look at your numbers, and then look at your variables. And remember, like in a question like this, where we don't have any numbers written in front of our variables, they would all be 1s. Okay? So 1. And if you don't have a exponent above your variable, it would also be a 1. So don't forget them. Okay, give this question a try for me. Just remember, look at your signs, and look at your numbers, and look at your variables. Okay. So let's try to break this question up a little bit. So I'm seeing some answers coming in, which is cool. Let's first look at our signs. So we've got a positive times a negative. That's going to give me a negative. A negative times a negative is going to give me a positive. And a positive times a negative is going to give me a negative. Okay. That's our first step. So we should get to a negative. So if you didn't get to a negative, try and check and just make sure you're happy with your other answers. That's our S. That's our signs done. Another little trick. I'm not like a super huge fan of giving tricks because I don't want you to like have to remember a whole bunch of things. But in when you're doing multiplication or division and you're dealing with integers, if you have an odd number of negative signs, so like here you've got 1, 2, 3. If you have an odd number of negative signs, then your answer will always be negative. If you have an even number of negative signs, your answer will always be positive. Like, let's just see how that goes to practice over here. We've got 1, 2 negative signs. That's an even number of negative signs, and so our answer is positive. Over here, we've got 1, 2 negative signs, so our answer is positive. Also 2 there, so our answer is positive. See if we have 3 anywhere. Not yet. Okay, so if we have an even number, it's going to be positive, and if we have an odd number, it's going to be negative. Let me just write that there. Even number of negatives is going to give us a positive, and if we have an odd number of negatives, it's going to give us a negative. So we have a negative answer. Then we got to look at our numbers. Now, I think what happened to some people is they added, they didn't multiply. But what we've got is 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. And 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Numbers. Done. Then we look at our variables. We've got 2 x's plus another x, so it's 3 x's. 4, 5 x's, 6 x's, x to the power of 6. Then we look at our y's. We've got 1y, 2 y's, 3, 4 y's. That's our whole answer. Y to the power of 4. Who got this question 100% correct? Who got this fully correct? Who got the full answer of -1 x to the power of 6, y to the power of 4? Let me know. Yay, well done. Good. Okay. Cool. Cool. Okay, let's try another one. So I want you to try and think about what we spoke about now. So, okay, signs, numbers, variables. I want you to think about how many negative signs you've got here. You've got 2 negative signs. That's an even number of negative signs. So think about what that means. Oh, sorry, I see I had a hand there for a second. Do you want me to go back to the question? Or did you have a question to ask? No, my hand has disappeared. Sorry for missing your hand. Ah, yes, absolutely. I can absolutely go back to the question.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
while we do that, the courier just phoned me. I just quickly need to run to the gate. I've sent a private message to you in the chat with the link. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Is that fine?
No problem.
I'll be super quick. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back with you now. All right, bye.
Okay, does anyone need to sit on this question any longer? Okay, give this one a go for me. So just remember, if we have 2 negative signs, what could that mean? Tembalisi, did you have a question?
No, it was for the last question, but I
Yeah.
don't know. For that one, I got the same number, but I didn't put the -1. I just said -x to the power of 6y.
That's absolutely fine. You don't need to have the 1. When we have a 1, you don't need to write the number.
If I ever not write the 1 in the test, would I get it wrong?
No, they are both equally as right as each other. You would 100% get it right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. I see answers coming in, which is great. Think about what the 2 negative signs mean. If I have an even number of negative signs, what's that going to mean? Is that going to give me a positive answer or a negative answer? And then think about what you are doing. Think about what's being multiplied here. I tried to trick you a little bit. Don't fall for my trick, is what I'm trying to say. I hope not everyone falls for my trick. So far, I can say that no one has the right answer yet. No one is there just yet. Simpiwe, how can I help?
Ma'am, I just wanted to find out that, like it says there, in front of the x value, you put a 1. So when we do the equation, do we also add in the 1 in the equation, like 2 minus 3 times the 1, the -1?
So you can put that 1 there if you're wanting to. You don't have to. You can also put the 1s above these little variables if you're wanting to. But you wouldn't put a 1 anywhere else in this question. If that helps.
Oh, ma'am, by the way, I am back.
Ah, welcome back.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm seeing some 6xy's. 6xy is also not right, guys. This is a trick question, guys. I did try and throw you off a little bit. I needed to sort of stretch your brains a little bit. But so far, no one has gotten the answer I'm looking for. Tiana, do you get to tell me the right answer here?
Is the answer -6, to x to the power of 2 and y to the power of 2?
It's not. I know. I was very sneaky, you guys. Oh, Roma, you're very close. You're not right, but you're very close. Katani?
Is it negative 5xy?
It's not, but it's close. I'm going to take you all out of your misery with this question. This is going to be our last one that we're going to talk about together. And then I'm going to pass you on to Anya so she can talk you through the quiz. This was my last little sneaky question to get your brains working before your quiz. If I'm looking at this, only those two are being multiplied together. The other one is being plus or minus. It's not being multiplied. So when I'm looking at these two, I'm looking at my science numbers variable. So I've got a positive and a negative, which gives me negative 6xy. So lots of people got to that point, which is great. That's what that gives me. And then I've got minus 1xy. And then I'm just adding or subtracting, which means I'm looking at my like terms. And so I've got negative 6xy minus 1xy, which is negative 7xy. That was my little push for your brain for the last bit of our evening. But well done, guys. You've done so nicely tonight. I did trick you. I'm sorry. I was being naughty, but I wanted to try and stretch your brains. But I'm going to pass you all over to Anya now, and she's going to help you get onto the quiz. And I will see you all on Tuesday. I hope you have a lovely, lovely weekend.